Sports Today. We bring you this video every single day to update you on what it is that has been happening in the world of sport whilst you were catching up on some sleep. And so, without further ado, let's get straight to it and talk about some of the things that have been happening in the world of sport. And we'll get right to it with something rather interesting that has been noted that, it's winter season, and you have already been seeing, if you live in the National Capital Region, the Delhi NCR region, that pollution has started to become a little bit of a problem. Smog is setting in. Interestingly, though, Indian cricket team skipper Rohit Sharma actually shared Instagram post or Instagram story where he showcased or highlighted just how much smog there was in Mumbai as well. Now, obviously, a lot of this has prompted backlash and criticism on the use of, let's say, firecrackers in the middle of World Cup games. And according to a statement from BCCI Secretary Jay Shah, they will not, in fact, be using those during the game against which will be taking place against Sri Lanka, and that will, of course, be taking place tomorrow. So the statement that has come from Jay Shah himself is that the BCCI is sensitive to environmental concerns. I took up the matter formally with the ICC, and there won't be any fireworks display in Mumbai which can add to the pollution level. The board is committed to combating environmental issues and will always place the interest of our fans and stakeholders at the forefront. The BCCI acknowledges the urgent concerns surrounding air quality in both Mumbai and New Delhi, while we strive to host the ICC World Cup in a manner befitting the celebration of cricket. We remain steadfast in our commitment to prioritizing the health and safety of all our stakeholders. That is what Jay Shah has said in his statement. And it's an interesting thing. And I mean, there has been a lot of talk about the celebration, the fireworks show, the light shows that have been taking place during the World Cup. And while it's great that the BCCI have in fact been looking, let's say, to add to that, because of course the Cricket World Cup very much a spectacle of sorts, it does make sense that they would not look to be adding to the pollution levels of the city, because again, smog in Mumbai is something that you wouldn't actually have associated. In recent years, it's been more of a, let's say, Delhi or northern areas problem. But the fact that it's in Mumbai already, definitely more than a little bit concerning. Continuing on, when you're talking about cricket and Mumbai, one of the people who will always come to your mind, Sachin Tendulkar. And on the eve of India's match against Sri Lanka, that is of course today, there's going to be a grand unveiling of a nice statue of Sachin Tendulkar outside the Wankhede ground itself. You'd remember that, there was a life-size statue that had been commissioned on Sports Today itself. We even have, let's say, a video, or let's say we've got videos up on where we've interviewed the person who made that statue, and he's spoken about the amount of detail that went into it, and the fact that he even consulted and collaborated with Sachin himself whilst getting that statue made. And that statue is set to be unveiled. We'll get you, of course, all those visuals as and when it happens. You can check it out here. You know the destination. Sports Today will be the place where you get all of that. It will be outside the Wankhede Stadium and features him playing a rather iconic shot, one that is of course very much trademarked to him, although that can be said about pretty much every cricket stroke in the book. However, whilst we're talking about turmoil in cricket, can fail to mention the Pakistan Cricket Board and the crisis, yet another one I may add, that has engulfed the Pakistan cricket team. You remember there is a lot going on, whether it comes to WhatsApp chats being leaked, and the fact that there's multiple media reports talking about a civil war kind of situation brewing between the players and the board, and the fact that even for that matter, the board itself is very, very, let's say, it's a tumultuous situation, because Zaka Ashraf, the current chairman, well, unfortunately, he is, will probably not be in power unless something magical happens come November 5th, if memory serves me right. So there is a lot of criticism that has come in for that, and the latest to add to that criticism is former skipper Shahid Afridi, who during a news show over there, whilst replying to what a fan had asked, hit out at the chairman, and he said that Zaka Ashraf साहब किसी क्लब के चेयरमैन नहीं है, वो पीसीबी के चेयरमैन है. Which is basically that he's not running a club. He is in fact the chairman of the PCB. He should keep a lot of things in mind. You're calling the owners of a media house and saying that somebody is saying things about you. for God's sake, do your job. Those last 6 words, very, very apt and very, very accurate when you look at how it is that, things should ideally be done when it comes to, let's say, sporting organizations. Unfortunately, when it comes to the PCB, we know that there is a lot of political involvement, and that is in fact just how things have been when it comes to the PCB ever since really its inception. That's been the case. Anyway, a little bit more cricket news for you guys before we move on to a little bit of other sports. You remember that recently when the schedule was broken for the Indian women's team, the home domestic series that will be happening, there was a lot of excitement around the schedule for one simple reason, that there would be test matches played for the women's team. It has been one major concern or criticism of people who've been wanting the sport to grow, is that there's just not enough women's test matches played, and that the BCCI should perhaps be looking to, let's say, take more of an initiative in that regard, considering their financial might. And well, there are of course going to be test matches played, although recently Harmanpreet Kaur, she had an interview with a media house, and she said that there is definitely a lack of practice that most players would have when it comes to such situations. She said that we were going to try to do our best, but we don't have much experience when we talk about test games, because even at domestic level we don't play this form of cricket nowadays. But still, we're looking forward for this opportunity, and I'm sure as a team we'll put our best performance forward. And that's a pertinent point. I mean, we talk a lot about, there has been plenty of talk about growing the game and ensuring that, let's say, there's more and more cricket being played at the domestic level. One of the things that really should be talked about more often than not is the fact that you need to be playing more first class cricket at that level as well, because quite frankly there isn't that level played, and unless you're training players to play that at the domestic level, you will not in fact be getting, let's say, good test players or even regular test cricket happening at the domestic, let's say, at the international level. Anyway, moving our focus now from the world of cricket sports beyond, Shriyanka Sarangi, an Indian shooter, has grabbed a Paris Olympics quota after winning a gold medal in one of the events that was taking place recently, and this was India's 13th Olympic Paris quota, which means that Indian shooters have now sealed all 8 quotas that were on offer in rifle events, which means that potentially you could be looking at getting a few good medals when it comes to the Olympics in the shooting, which of course is something that you would expect, given that shooting is one of the strongest points when it comes to the sporting contingents that India sends in this, in such events. However, you have to remember, in the Olympics, there'll definitely be a lot more competition than you see in places like the Asian Games or the Commonwealth Games, as and when it was happening there. Bit of tennis news now before we bring things to a close. Carlos Alcaraz, the world's #1 men's tennis player, his hope of finishing at the top ranking come the end of the year took a bit of a hit, because he ended up losing to a qualifier named Roman Saifulin in the Paris Masters. Now, the Paris Masters is, of course, one of the few events that will be taking place before the year-ending ATP finals, and in order to ensure that he stays on top of, let's say, the rankings, he needs to be doing well in these events. But it is worth remembering that Alcaraz hasn't actually won any event since he was crowned the Wimbledon champion. It's been a mixture of a drop-off of form and, of course, admittedly fitness and injury issues that have plagued him, but it's definitely a bit unfortunate that his drop-off has continued. And you're talking about world #1s being upset. Jessica Pegula has upset world #1 Aryna Sabalenka in her group stage match that was taking place at the WTA finals, and in fact Pegula, thanks to that win, ended up advancing to the semi-finals. Now, it's a tale as old as time that you'll see a certain player in the women's tour end up becoming #1 and then struggling. We were hoping that was something that wouldn't happen to Sabalenka, but there's definitely been a drop-off in form in that regard, and you hope that she's able to correct that before the remaining games in mind. And that's it from me on this edition of the Morning Wrap with Sports Today. Thank you guys so much for joining us. There's a question that Ankit had asked, where he asked, where have I been? We'll answer that question in due course. Stay tuned to Sports Today. We'll be bringing you all of the latest happenings from the world of sport through the day, and of course plenty of coverage. A big game coming today in the ICC World Cup. You know the place to be for that. It is, of course, and always Sports Today. Thank you so much for joining us. If you enjoy our work, please don't forget, like, share, subscribe, tap the bell, leave us a comment, follow us on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. Don't forget to download the Sportsbook mobile app and check out the website. And last but not least, stay tuned. Lots more coming through the day. For now, from my side though, it's bye-bye.